Hello. Hi. Would you please get comfortable? Standing, sitting, lying down. I want to make sure everyone's sitting because in a minute I'm going to make some of you stand again. So, hello, my name is Anne Marie Fulfer, and I am the Bar Commissioner representing the 1st and 2nd Districts. I want to welcome you to the celebration for attorneys who were admitted to the Idaho State Bar 50, 60, 65, and 70 years ago. We also want to acknowledge those who were admitted 25 and 40 years ago. So if you would please stand or raise your hand if you were admitted 25 years ago. I know you guys... All right. So one of my first law school memories is before I started, I spent the summer of '96 with the 25-year attorneys as they were studying for the bar. I guess they were successful. And 40-year members, would you please stand or raise your hand? Judge Carrick. All right. So, okay. All right. Thank you. So on your table, we have the August issue of The Advocate, and it honors attorneys and non-attorneys that we, the commissioners, have selected to receive awards in 2021, and along with the attorneys that we're recognizing this evening. Attorneys and judges will receive a copy of the issue in The Advocate in the first week of August. Also, we want to thank our platinum, gold, and silver sponsors. The platinum sponsors are the Bank of Idaho, the 4th District Bar, and the Idaho Central Credit Union. Gold sponsors are Clio and the University of Idaho College of Law. Silver sponsors are Custer Agency, Idaho Community Foundation, LexisNexis, Sage Forensic Accounting, LawPay, and the Idaho State Bar Idaho Legal History Society section. So, thank you. Without our sponsors, well, we'd be a lot hungrier and thirstier. All right, now we're going to present the awards for recognizing the 70, the 65, the 60, and the 50-year awards. And so I think we have my fellow commissioner, Kristen Bjorkman-Dunn, and Kurt Holzer, and former bar president, Judge Mike Oates, are going to be doing the presentations. All right. Thank you.
Okay, all right, that's great. Gosh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's presentation. Anne-Marie, thank you for getting us kicked off. We're going to kind of go through and hand out this recognition to each of these individual attorneys that we're honored to be here with tonight. And we kind of have a co-presentation going on here. So Kurt's going to help me. Judge Oates is going to help. We're going to start, if you guys are ready for this, with the 70-year Attorney Award. This award goes to Chuck Blanton. I looked this up because I wanted to know the date that he was admitted to the bar, and you were admitted to the bar on Halloween in 1951. We were visiting just before this, and Chuck mentioned that this year, if you can believe it, this year he decided to give up tennis.
Happened to some of us a while before that, Chuck. So go ahead and be seated here. I'll go ahead and give you.
I can just barely stand, but I will.
No.
You know,
Well, go ahead and have a seat. I'll give you the mic if you want. No, it's gonna. I get to do.
do it while I'm standing.
Okay, I get to do a little bit of intro though, real brief. Well, no, it's the only thing I thought about was this: if you're admitted in 1951, the one thing I can guarantee you is that there were no 70-year Idaho state lawyers in 1951, because there was no Idaho state in 1881. So there you go. All right.
Now you ruined it.
But I would not presume to tell you what to say, so we'll let you have the floor.
Well, when I received the plaque for 50 years, it reminded me that one of the people that I served on the foundation, pardon me, it was the Boise State University Foundation, commented when he was awarded a plaque, and he said, you know, the significance of this is the road to senility is paved with plaques. But it's always, I've only got a couple of plaques to go to finish my road, so it's pleased to get this one. No.
So our next recognition is going out to Justice Robert Bakes. He is receiving his 65-year recognition plaque. And if you can believe this bit of information, he has authored nearly 1,000 written opinions during his judicial career.
Well, Judge Bakes was 35 years ago when I was admitted to the Idaho State Bar. Justice Bakes was on the Supreme Court, and tell you what a gentleman he is. You know, I'm about as clueless as a person can be, and so we're in the old Supreme Court chambers. We get the recognition. We go down to the Crystal Ballroom, and this guy walks up to me and he goes, "Congratulations on admission to the bar. I'm Bob Bakes." And I said, "Hi, Bob. What do you do?" and he goes, "Oh, I'm one of the justices, just swore you in." I'm like, "Oh, shoot." And you can immediately tell from the reaction that he wasn't offended, and that's the type of guy Justice Bakes is.
Well, Mike, before he became a magistrate judge, he appeared before the court a lot of times. He's instructed me a lot more than I ever instructed him, and he's had a great career, and I'm proud that he's been able to serve the bar in his capacity as a commissioner, serve the court system, and he's been just a great friend of lawyers throughout the state of Idaho. So, Mike, thank you and congratulations to you. Well,
of all the years you were on the court, what was it? Is there any one case or one event that stuck out that that rose above anything else?
yes, there is. It was in right when I came on the court in 1972. We had a disaster with the bar examination, Ordinarily, the pass rate was around 80%, and that fall, the pass rate was 39%, I think. And there was, I don't know, 30 or 40 of them filed petition to the Supreme Court claiming that the examination was bad, the grading was bad, everything was bad, and so we had a real disaster coming up. You remember that? And so what the court did was we appointed a blue ribbon committee of three distinguished lawyers from around the country. One was John Carver, by the way, who was practiced a lawyer in Boise for 20 years, and then he was the administrative assistant for Senator Church. We had another one was the head of the California Bar Examination Committee. So there's a person with a lot of skill in the bar exams. And when you get old, you can't remember a lot of things. So that's 2 out of 3, which is pretty good for me. Well, Lon Davis was the staff attorney for the two of them. I'll think of the third one in a minute. It was a guy who had been president of the California Bar. So anyway, they reviewed the exam and found that the questions, many of them were ambiguous, which caused the grading to go way off in all kind of directions. And the result of that was that they recommended that some of the questions be taken out. By the time you took out those and the bad scores that some of the lawyers got, they got up to where they passed about 75 or 60 or 75%. Well, the bar was irate. The commissioners were, and I remember we went over to, the Supreme Court was over in Idaho Falls for hearings during that fall, and the bar there threw a party for it, and the tension, you could cut the tension with an air. And I'll never forget, everybody was prepared. We were going to have a knockdown drag out. You could just see it. I remember on the way up, Judge Donaldson was the Chief Justice, and we kept plying him with relaxation, so that he wouldn't say something terrible or stupid. Anyway, they'd had the dinner and they were getting all ready for the meeting, and the tension, you could just cut it in the air. And Ted Pike, anybody here know Ted Pike? Ted Pike got up and started to walk out, and the lawyers all said, "Come on, Ted, don't chicken out on us. Come on, you were the one who brought this thing on, And he stopped, and Ted pulled himself up like this, and he said, "I'm not walking out. I'm going to the bathroom." And I'll remind you what the Duke of Wellington said at the battle of when Napoleon and his troops were coming across, and the British were there, the big fight of the century in the continent. And the Duke said to his staff as he climbed off his horse, he said, "Gentlemen, this may be your last opportunity in this life to take a piss." Well, that broke the tension, and as a result, we had really a progressive meeting. And after that, the court formed a committee of lawyers and judges, and they redid the bar exam. We finally had written standards for giving and grading bar examinations. And as a result, we developed a very warm relationship with the bar commissioners, which I think has gone on ever since. And anyway, you can thank Ted Pike. It's too late. I think Ted's gone on to the happy hunting grounds. But whenever you realize when we have a good relationship between the bar and the lawyers, and particularly the commission, thank Ted Pike.
Thanks, Judge. I had the privilege of doing Justice Bakes' oral history a few years back, and correct me if I haven't got this right, but I don't want to date you, but You said you were swimming in the pond off of Boise Avenue when we got the word of Pearl Harbor. Is that a true story?
All right.
Do we have Neil Newhouse or not?
Yeah, we have. I guess one of the things that I wanted to point out as we kind of go through the program tonight, in case you're following along in the Advocate, you will notice that we've got a list of recipients that is longer, includes more folks than we've got with us here tonight. So if you're following along and thinking, my goodness, why didn't we stop and pause to recognize that person? It's just because they weren't able to be here with us tonight. So we're going to move on to the 50-year recognitions here in just a moment. But before we do that, we're going to take a brief sidebar, and we're going to have some awards given out for the Advocate and the Idaho Legal History Society. So I'm going to have a couple of folks come up to do that. So if Chris Graham and Richie Epping would come up, and then after that we'll have Brian Kane come up to do the Advocate Awards.
Hi everyone, Richie Epping here, and I'm here with Chris Graham. I'm the most recent outgoing president of the Idaho Legal History Society, and Chris Graham is your new chair of the Idaho Legal History section, I think the newest section of the Idaho State Bar, and we'll say more about that in a little bit. But what I am here mostly to do is, in a matter of minutes, to somehow try to give due honor and respect to Justice Byron Johnson, Judge Lynn Windmill, and Judge Ron Bush. I'm not sure I can do it in the 2 minutes that I think that I've been allotted, but I will try my best. Of all of the organizations and associations in Idaho and in the law that we can join and be a part of, I've found that the Idaho Legal History Society is a unique gem among them. And I think that's in part because Idaho's legal history itself is sort of infinitely fascinating. I feel like each time I learn something new about the legal history of our state, I am surprised by it, and each one seems more unexpected than the last. And tonight's award that we'll be giving out from the Idaho Legal History Society is the Byron J. Johnson Award, and it's the greatest honor that you can receive in preserving and promoting our state's legal history. And it's not given out just because. It hasn't been given out each year. It's not given out as a matter of course. It's given out only when especially deserved. And tonight's award of the Byron J. Johnson Award, I think, could not be more special or more deserved. Justice Byron Johnson, who I suspect many of you may have known, and his wife, Judge Patricia Young, is here with us tonight, spent decades preserving and sharing Idaho's legal history. And he was, for one thing, among many things, a founding member of the Idaho Legal History Society. He was also a civil rights lawyer. He was a poet and an Idaho Supreme Court justice, and a judge who wrote that Idaho needs poets more than judges. The award was created in 2007, a few years before Justice Johnson passed away in 2012. And it goes tonight in a very special award of the Byron J. Johnson Award to the lead co-founders of the Idaho Legal History Society. And those were Judge Lynn Windmill and Judge Ronald Bush, who, along with Justice Johnson, formed the society 16 years ago in 2005. And all three of them, Justice Johnson, Judge Windmill, Judge Bush, have done this most profound thing. They have each left their own indelible marks on Idaho's legal history, while at the same time protecting that legal history that came before them. Judge Bush, who's freshly retired, as many of you know, couldn't finagle a planned trip around to make it in person tonight. I think, although I have not spotted his son may be here tonight. If Noah Bush is here, please go ahead and come forward. If not, we'll get that to Judge Bush separately. But I know that Judge Windmill is here, and if Judge Windmill, you could come forward. We have the award to present to you tonight. I'll read it out. It says, honoring individuals and institutions whose contributions have significantly advanced the mission of the Idaho Legal History Society in preserving and fostering public understanding of the rich tapestry of the history of law and justice in the great state of Idaho, to the Honorable B. Lynn Windmill, 2021.
When Richie called and told me I was going to get this award, I really was overwhelmed for a lot of reasons. One, Byron Johnson has always been one of my heroes. One of my, I guess, interesting experiences was the first time I set foot in a federal courtroom was to have Byron Johnson cross-examine me as a witness. So I've always held that. That was my first experience, and also have Ray McNichols, who was presiding over the trial, to remind me before I went to law school that I needed to learn to answer a question directly. And I thought, what an introduction to law and an introduction to the federal courts. Byron has just always been such a hero to me. I think he and Patricia and the legacy that they've left in Idaho is just remarkable. But I just did want to make a couple of comments tied into Byron. I've always believed that the law and history are, to use one of my favorite legal terms, inextricably intertwined. I don't really think we can understand the law unless we understand history, and I'm not sure we can appreciate our history unless we understand how law has impacted, and that applies both nationally and here in the state of Idaho. And I look in this room, I see Justice Bake sitting there, and of course we lost Justice McDevitt here earlier this year. Larry Boyle from that same court 4 or 5 years ago, Steve Beislein quite a few years ago. So Bob Bakes is the only living member of the court that presided during the time I was a lawyer, and really most of the time I was a state court judge. And I think understanding their experience, understanding their oral history, as we talked about earlier, I think Mike indicated he had taken Justice Bake's oral history. It is only as we reach back and understand this great tapestry, as this plaque says, of our legal history in this state, understand the contributions of a Bob Bakes and a Byron Johnson, Steve Beislein, very different views of the law, but very important in our understanding of our legal systems and really, in turn, our history as a state, as a bar, and as a profession. And I'm just really very flattered to receive this, Richie. I think, and I hope all of you will continue to support the Legal History Society as it now moves to be a bar section. Hopefully that will allow it to even be more important in the everyday lives of our lawyers.
Thank you and congratulations, Judge. And like I said, we'll ensure that Judge Bush gets the award and shares comments with the section when he has an opportunity to return from his trip. Appropriately enough, as I mentioned earlier, Judges Windmill and Bush received this award just as the Idaho Legal History Society matures into a new chapter of its own history, becoming a section of the Idaho State Bar. Chris Graham is the new chair of that section here with me. Anyone can join the section, whether you're a member of the State Bar or not. The next meeting, I believe, is going to be on October 12th. And in the meantime, you can sign up and pay your dues or just show up on the 12th on Zoom or in person. And so congratulations and eternal thanks to Judges Windmill and to Judge Bush. And thank you to the State Bar for letting us take this time to present those awards tonight.
Next, we're going to hear from Brian Kane, who will present the awards for the advocate. Brian, I neglected to mention for this esteemed audience that you're the chair of the Advocate Editorial Advisory Board.
Thank you. Thank you. I am the chair, but I don't know that that really means anything other than I get to stand up here and give out the awards, provided I don't mess it up too badly. One of the things that I want to let you know is the Advocate gives out 2 awards annually. One is for the best issue, and the other is for the best article. The Advocate, I think, is one of the real gems of the state bar. And I think that because we're one of the few remaining bar publications that is entirely volunteer authored, meaning we wouldn't have an Advocate magazine that's sitting on your table if it weren't for you, the members of the bar, submitting the articles. And then on top of that, we have a board of editors that volunteers their time to go through each article within the Advocate, and we sit around a table once a month. We go through all of the articles, we share ideas on them, and then get back to the authors. And what we hope is a collaborative process. But none of that would be possible without the volunteer efforts of everyone involved. And I think that that's a real testament to the quality of our state bar and the members within it. This year, our best issue sponsorship, our best issue is the November-December 2020 issue, which was co-sponsored by the Idaho Legal History Society and the Idaho Women Lawyers section. It celebrated the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And it was one of those editions that I will tell you that when we first sat around the table and picked up the articles just in their rough format, we knew at that point in time that we were holding on to a fairly special edition of the Advocate. And on a personal note, as I read through that edition of the Advocate, I could actually hear my history professor from the University of Idaho, Kathy Aiken, Professor Aiken, who then became dean and then provost, but I knew her back when she was a professor. But I could hear her voice emphasizing certain points within those articles as I flipped through the pages. And it was just one of those remarkable experiences to have that as we flip through it. I hope that you all get similar enjoyment as you read through those articles. But to me, this was an article that was an edition that was incredibly timely as well, right? As we look around the nation and we're now somehow debating the merit of things like science and history, I think it's a real testament that our bar can recognize this as the best edition in the past year. And so with that, if we could have the sponsors for the Idaho Legal History Society and the Idaho Women Lawyers come forward to receive their award. Okay, good. And so that was our best issue, and probably after that intro, it's not surprising that our best article for the year also came from that same issue. And that's an article titled Women's Suffrage and the Pandemic of 1918. It was co-written by Christopher Graham and Boise State University Honors College student Lucy Murphy. The article stood out for its skill in combining the historical topic of suffrage with the contemporary twist of explaining how the Spanish flu pandemic nearly derailed the women's suffrage movement. The research and engaging writing made this historical event feel particularly relevant. not to mention the fact that we were all kind of going through a pandemic on our own, and maybe still doing that. But I think that, again, right, this shows kind of the nimbleness with which the advocate can address both history and timely and relevant developments within the law. And so with that, if we could have Christopher and Lucy come forward to receive their awards for the best article. Back to Kristen.
All right. Well, we're moving on in our program for the evening to the 50-year attorney recognition. We have a number of folks that are with us tonight. We're thrilled to have them join us. We have first Howard Foley. There we go. There we got it.
I'll come to you.
Oh, great. Mike's already there.
Unless you've got more than 50 years, we do what we call the Alan Dingle rule, which is you're not allowed to touch the mic. I get to hold it. But Howard, understand you had to run, so we jumped you up to the front of the line. Just talk to the folks about maybe somebody that inspired you as a lawyer, or what somebody that you look back on and go, boy, that person really had an influence on me.
Sure. My mentor was a fellow by the name of Reginald Reeves. I don't know if you know of Reginald Reeves. Was, I think, one of the first black lawyers in Idaho. And after I finished law school, I had the opportunity to go back to Idaho Falls, where I was from, and was looking for a job or whatever. I remember going in and sitting across from him, and he had files stacked up on his desk like this, and I said, gee, I might be at the right place at the right time. And so he was good enough to let me work for him for that summer. And so somewhere through the summer, I finally said, Reg, I just got to ask you this. I think he was from South Carolina, black guy, 50s, went to the University of Idaho, law school, which was remarkable, I think, back then. And I said, how did that happen? And he said, well, I applied a number of different places, but the University of Idaho didn't require a photo ID with it. So he said, you should have seen the look on the registrar's face when I walked in with my acceptance. And I said, well, in addition to that, for those of us from eastern Idaho, how in the world do you end up in Idaho Falls, Idaho? And that was because of Mr. Denman. It was Denman and Reeves at that time was willing to hire him and take him on. He was great to work with and mentor, and kind of teach you a little bit about the law and how to challenge every judge and every decision and appeal everything you could possibly appeal. And so that was my guy.
I think his firm is still called Denman and Reeves. Thanks, Howard. You know what our role is. Appeal me if you want, just don't remand.
So our next recognition is going out to John Michael Brassey. For those of you who know him well, goes by Mike. And if you are having a hard time finding him, you might find him playing some golf, doing some hunting or some fishing.
Mike?
Hunting,
No, nothing more need be said?
hunting, fishing, and golf. It's a great life. I'd like to just thank everyone that I've worked with in the bar for all these years. And as it turns out, it's been several years. Every morning I wake up, look in the mirror, and say, Jesus, what happened?
Nope.
But Anyway, I've enjoyed the practice, loved the people I've worked with, even when they weren't exactly of a proper state of mind. And in general, I've had a marvelous time. Thank you all.
You don't miss trips to the legislature?
Still doing it.
Oh, you still? You're a brave man.
Our next recognition goes out to D. Blair Clark. For 40 years, he and his family were all active in retriever field trials and hunts, both as handler and judge.
You wouldn't do that, would you?
Was it sneak up behind you? Of course I would.
What is that thing?
It's the newfangled thing. It's called a microphone. Unaccustomed as you are to speaking, we'll let you talk. Just tell us, you've been here the whole time, right, in Boise, your whole practice?
Yeah.
Tell me what's different now than 50 years ago when you started in terms of the practice.
The biggest thing, when I first started up at Gene Anderson's office, he had, I think at that time, the third largest private law library in Boise. And there was no wall space. You couldn't hang a picture, you couldn't do anything. I mean, it was books all over the place. I've got 100 times that on my iPhone. I mean, something like that would have absolutely blown him away. He would not have understood that one bit. But some things don't. I got lucky, frankly, when I went to work for him, because it was a fluke. Because I simply went up to ask him who I should go to work for. And he wasn't looking for anybody at the time, but he knew my father. And he said, well, if you're related to him, then you probably know how to treat people, so you can come work for me for a while. And I found out later he kept an average of about one associate every 10 years. And the rest of them would be gone. And they'd be all around the place. They'd be, Dave Whitney over in Caldwell was one of them. And I remember this because he and I went back one time to take a deposition in Garden City, Kansas, which is not the hub of the universe. But he was telling me about working for Gene, and he said, and that old bastard gave me this tax case and told me to go do it, and I couldn't figure it out, and I worked on that thing for months, and he just got so mad at me every time I tell him I couldn't get it. And it was the same one he gave me. What I found out is he had his own little bar exam, and he would give you 2 or 3 pet cases. And I asked Whitney, I said, did he give you this one? Well, yeah. And he went through all of them, and I got so mad at him one time. He was a little short guy. He stood about 5'5", and he sounded like Winston Churchill and just growled. And he asked me a question once, and I answered it. I don't remember what it was, and he told me I was totally wrong. He was a little more blunt than that. And I got mad, and I went in, and I found the answers in some obtuse one of these books I was telling you about, and I went in and I dumped it on his desk, and I said, there, goddammit, I am right. And he never said a thing. He just grinned and looked up at me, and he sat down in his chair, and he says, you're going to make it. So that was different. I don't know whether they do that anymore or not, but that's how he did it back then.
And you did make it. So
Well, maybe.
I don't think anybody ever did that except that guy. But
Our next recognition tonight goes out to Ed Ahrens. This is not his first rodeo being recognized by the bar. In 2018, he received the Idaho State Bar Distinguished Lawyer Award as well.
Darren offered money to me to be allowed to comment here, Ed, and it wasn't enough money, so I didn't let it.
His comments are probably good enough, though.
I won't repeat it.
Oh,
So talk to me about your experiences as a young lawyer, and just how you've seen it change since you were in the 70s practicing law here.
When back in '71, it was very unusual for someone to say that they wanted to practice in a narrow area of the law. Fortuitously, I happened to pick estate planning, and the folks back in Congress were kind enough to make the law more complicated on multiple occasions, which narrowed down the competition considerably. And so that has been the one thing that I think probably all of us have seen, and in a myriad of fields, most of which I have no understanding of, because if you do practice in a narrow field, you better stay in your field and leave those other areas alone. So I think it's been a change that's been beneficial to society. It's been enjoyable for me, but it's a change that probably will continue on for some time. And that's why, in regard to the mentoring question, I still need mentors. And I enjoy and appreciate how each one of them has helped me, and how we can all help each other. So.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think you probably made the right choice of a field of law.
I couldn't agree with you more. I kind of feel like the longer I practice, the more I realize how helpful a mentor is. That need really never goes away. And one of the nice things about our bar is the ability to be able to find a mentor or a kind person to kind of help you down your path. I'm happy to tell Jim Reed that you're up next, your recognition. Yay, right here. So Jim has the pleasure of practicing law with his daughter, Jennifer Mahoney, at the same office, I understand.
I saw Jim's name on the list, and I wrote a note down here before you and I even talked earlier, and he said exactly the same thing in terms of what we're going to talk. And I'll tell you, he's not that persuasive. And the reason I say that is that probably 25 years ago, there was a controversial decision out of the Idaho Supreme Court on whether or not people could criticize judges. I was not a judge, I was bar counsel. And I had been the plaintiff and actually won the case by some miracle. And so we had a debate in front of the 4th District Bar, morning CLE. Jim took one side, I took the other side, argued the merits of the argument. And of the 90 people there, the final vote was 89 for him and 1 undecided. So he's not that persuasive. So. I get to hold
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, earlier tonight, Mike had reminded me of that, and I, to this day, still remember a letter that I read the 4th Judicial District Bar that was written by a California lawyer concerning a request by a federal judge to be evaluated as to his competence. And the reason I read the letter was that letter ended up in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which the Idaho Supreme Court relied upon that decision in deciding to sanction the Idaho lawyer. So I read everybody the letter, and before I read it, I said 2 things you need to remember. Number 1, I would never criticize a judge under any circumstances. So I'm absolved from that. Number 2, when I read you this letter, remember the Ninth Circuit said this was okay. This letter was the most blistering attack I ever saw on a member of the judiciary. This guy called this judge every name in the book. And the Ninth Circuit said, that's fine. And I said, here we got this poor guy up in northern Idaho who thought the judge was being too political, and he gets sanctioned. Yet this lawyer in California literally lambasted a federal judge, and the Ninth Circuit said, no problem. So fortunately, the members of the bar took my side on that, kind of. But one last thing. Last week, I was getting ready to go to work, and I was thinking that I was actually looking forward to the day and the things that I was going to do that day. And it dawned on me here 50 years later, in that moment, that if I was able to look forward to going to work 50 years after starting, I think I picked the right profession. And number two, I would hope that anybody who looks forward to going to work after 50 years can look back with fond memories, which I definitely have, and I hope everybody who, especially my classmates, I hope everybody has the same fond memories.
Just comment, the difference probably was that the Idaho State Bar probably had more persuasive counsel. All right.
Well, so I chuckle at that story, but I also, it like is touching to hear you say that for 50 years you've enjoyed going to work and enjoyed the people around you, and what a testament to a wonderful career, right? Yeah. So our next award recipient, but before I get to that, Mike, I forgot to do this. As you were walking around, there are ground rules for tonight. Mike has the microphone, and that's where the microphone stays, right? Yeah, he's going to hold the mic for you as you walk around. There's no freelancing going on here tonight. So our next recipient is Judge John Varon. He has logged 22 years of judicial service, 13 of which he was a juvenile court judge. And I have a little side story that I had the distinct pleasure of working with his son and sitting just like doors, down the hall from him. So.
You got your plaque? Okay. So, Judge, talk to us about, you mentioned this a little bit in the advocate, but the challenges of being a judge and being so recognizable in a small town like you were in, which I'm sure are real challenges.
Well, I was truly blessed to be an attorney in a small town, and then spent most of my career in Fairfield, Camas County. And when you live in a small town, you have to learn how to get along with people. Because every 4 years I had to run in a retention election. And that was really important to me to have a job. So it was always very interesting to me, though, as the sheriff had lived in the community all his life. Everybody knew him real well. My goal was to sometime get at least half the votes that he got, and I finally achieved that, so I felt like I had success. But living in a small town, the other thing I got to do is I got to travel. I mean, and Justice Bakes knows this too. I worked as a judge in Ada County for six and a half years, thanks to Judge Kramer and how they wanted to set up things to work up here. And it was really interesting to be up here and work with fellow judges who were in a large community, and they didn't even know the people they were working with. In Fairfield, if I decided to recuse myself on every person I knew, I'd have never held court. And Fred knows that too from Salmon. But what that does too is it makes you have some humility, because you got to understand you're going to make decisions that aren't right for folks sometimes, and you're going to make decisions that are right. Usually there's a winner and a loser, and one of them's going to be not so happy and one of them's going to be happy. But the issue is, can you do that in a way that they walk out the door thinking, okay, justice was done. May not have liked what it was, but justice was done. And that's what we're all here for, is to do justice. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to live in a small town, to do what I did. I traveled I got up almost every morning and saw a sunrise, and almost every evening saw a sunset as I was driving. And Will knows that I wasn't home too often. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
Okay, Mike, we're moving on to Mark Geston.
So Mark is right here. Oh, there you are.
Mark Geston is a writer in addition to being an attorney. He has published several novels. His first novel was published while he was still a college student.
You get the photo up. Oh, photo up? Yeah. Oh, you get a photo up? Oh, sure.
My great friend.
Keep doing what you're doing.
My grandson will be driving soon, so.
Nice. So known Mark for a very long time, and talk about some of the people that were mentors to you as a lawyer as you were coming up the chain.
Well, I was fortunate to arrive in Boise through a scholarship, or rather a clerkship with Boise Cascade when it was still on the upside. So John Clute at General Counsel for Boise Cascade and John Maurice in the legal department made for just a wonderful summer and really set my course on coming back to Boise, which I did. So, and looked to them for guidance, and then with one of the 4 largest law firms in the entire state, Eberle and Berlin, which had all of 15 people there, as did the other 3. So I've been here ever since and been tremendously flattered and gratified by having found a profession and a place that is so just generally nice and also allowed me to pursue my first love, which is writing. So years ago, just to follow up on that, and something I probably shouldn't say, is that years after I began writing and publishing and all that, I read a book of essays by a very fine novelist named Barry Malzberg, who had an essay about becoming a novelist, especially a science fiction novelist. And he said that all things considered, the gratification of writing, the recognition, the money involved in that particular genre, all things considered, you should go to law school. And I did. The book is called Breakfast in the Ruins, if you want to follow up on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Our next recognition tonight goes out to Fred Snook. He has served as the city attorney for the city of Salmon. And I have to say, I spent a year when I was growing up in the city of Salmon, and I always thought, that's the place where I want to live, is in those beautiful mountains. So what a wonderful place, I'm sure, to practice law.
Well, Fred, the question I had, and I read the bio part in there, and similar to what I asked Judge Farron, is you not only did it where you practiced, you were a judge and a lawyer where you grew up. And talk about that. I mean, I grew up my dad was a lawyer, and I grew up in a small town, well, bigger than Salmon, but a small town in Ohio, and it would have been interesting to try to, all the people that remembered you with dirt on your face as a 12-year-old. I mean, talk about that and how that played into your career as a lawyer and a judge.
Oh, I never had any dirt on my face when I was little, but my dad was a lawyer in Salmon for 52 years, and of course the Herndons were lawyers there, and the Furies, and the Lyons. So Fred Lyons, his dad, and so I grew up with the Herndons, the Furies, the Snooks, and the Lyons. And so law was, like I say, from the first grade on. I didn't know what a lawyer was, but I knew I was supposed to be one. But like Judge Varon says, you just had to act accordingly in your hometown and treat people like people and have their respect. And I was fortunate I was able to do that. Was elected prosecutor 6 terms and retained as judge 4 terms. The biggest difference between 71 and now is the legal fees. And when I was in 71, right after I was admitted, that fall, Mayor Cannon appointed me as the city attorney. And that was the city prosecutor and the civil. He went to all the meetings, etc. And it was $75 a month. So the take home was $58. So after 2 years, one of the meetings, the city council said, "Fred, you're doing a heck of a job. We're going to give you a 10% raise up to $82.50." And so now, 50 years later, I'm still a city attorney, but not for the civil part, and now actually per hour I make more than I used to make per month. So I'm moving forward.
Thank you. I thought you were going to say they moved you up to $100 a month, but no, that's great.
Our next 50-year recognition is going out to J.D. Williams. Many of you may recognize him as the Idaho controller for a number of years, but I want you to know that wasn't his first stint in public office. He also served as the mayor of the city of Preston.
You know, I've tried to avoid doing old guy jokes in this thing, but I want to point out that I've known JD for an awful long time, and he goes back so far that he was an elected official statewide as a Democrat.
Well, oh, that's right. You don't let a politician have a mind.
No, never. No, but talk about public service. I mean, you spent a lot of years, you know, in public service and doing things for the public good. And I hear complaints in the modern, or laments in the modern life that there aren't enough lawyers involved in politics. And talk about your experiences in that regard and why we ought to be more involved as lawyers in politics.
You know, as Kristen said, I was mayor of Preston. I just as soon be mayor of Preston right now, and gone for a lot of years. But I got a call from C. Sanders. It says Joel Williams, you know, the building's named after him over behind the Capitol, is going to retire, and I want to appoint you new state auditor, later controller. And I said, Cease, what if I don't want to do it? And he started to swear, and he said, I don't care. I'm going to appoint you. 28 days, you're going to be the state auditor. And that's really what really got me into a lot of it. What I remember is you can do a lot of things for a lot of people that not very many people know about, because it's the right thing to do. And as I look out here tonight, there's some giants. Justice Bakes. Justice Bakes probably gave me my best political advice. I was just sworn in, and we were together somewhere, and he said, JD, remember you're a Democrat, and don't get political. Stay out of politics. The state controller has nothing to do with politics, and very little except the land board. But it was a great advice, because you keep a low profile, and you survive. And then I see Mark Nye here, Senator from Pocatello. He and I probably had our first trial case together. He was in Franklin County, though, where I was from, and we did a number on him because of that. But Lynn Windmill, Senator Carrick, there's a lot that have done tremendous things, and we really here are with giants, and we need more giants. And those that are in our profession can have an incredible impact. And I am really feel humble, actually, to be associated with most of you here, and also to be able to do what I've done, serving the people. But I want to thank all of you for your service everywhere you've done and the impact you've made on lives. Thank you.
Well, I will invite all of you to please, when you have a moment, take a chance to thumb through the Advocate and see the rest of the individuals that are being recognized.
Terry White. Oh, Terry
Yep.
left? Okay. All right, like we're supposed to be at. Yeah, I was going to say, I swear I just walked. Right.
Terry, I'm so sorry, because you were on our list for tonight, and then I got the word that Terry's already left. He's gone on to the next event. And so here I am wrapping up, and heaven's sake, people, we haven't recognized you.
Well, how many years since you've been off the commission, Terry? Yeah, well, yeah, that's the way it goes. We worked together 30 years, and it's like, what's your name again? So I'll just let you, I'm not going to give you the plaque first. Photo op. Hammer, you getting the photo op. Well, I would ask you to just tell me what it's like to proximity to Dave Carrick all these years, but just I'll give you an open mic. I'm going to hold it.
Yeah. Well, I just get no respect at all. One thing I would like to comment on, though, is, this is basically the University of Idaho College of Law class of 71, and Justice Bakes 72 will be here next year, and that's the they're the bad guys. Yeah, but our class of 71, coming through Vietnam and all of the things that were going on and going to law school there in the basement of the administration building, I think has turned out quite a group of exceptional people, and we've all stayed friends and acquaintances over all of these years. So I would give a little shout out to that class. I think we've done well.
Well, on that note, let's give a shout out to everybody that has been recognized tonight. I'm going to welcome back to the podium our President-elect Anne-Marie Fulfer.
All right, I'm going to close us out. So as we close this evening, I'd like to again welcome our incoming commissioner, Gary Cooper. Gary, are you? All right, well, he's welcome, but I can again say thank you to our outgoing commissioner and president, Don Carey. So thank you again, Don. And there's a group of people that I want to make sure that we all thank as we see them in the next couple of days. These are the staff members of the Idaho State Bar who are the boots on the ground people helping this out. They are putting aside their regular duties in their departments such as administration, communication and program services, financial, accounting, and they're here to make everything run smoothly. So let's thank Teresa Baker, Dana Ferrero, Lindsay Welfley, Kim Graziano, Shay Beckwith, Debbie Dudley, Carissa Carnes, Carrie Scheffler, and Andrea Bates. You know, I'll always say Andrea. The CLE programs begin tomorrow morning at 8:30. The Continental Breakfast will be available from 7:30 to 8:30. And once again, thanks to all the attorneys, judges, and guests for attending the annual meeting. So, see you tomorrow.